All right, welcome back, everybody. Next up, we have Marco Zehe. He's Mozilla's accessibility QA engineer. He's a very well-known accessibility evangelist. He has a lot of experience with assistive technology, both as an end user and as a professional contributor. He knows more than any of us about browsers and screen readers and accessibility. And if you ever want to get involved with the accessibility of Mozilla products, such as Firefox, he's the guy to talk to. And we're very happy to have him here today. So if you have any questions during the sessions, just add them to the question window, and I'll make sure Marco will get them. Sorry. Okay, Marco, when you're ready, you can get started.
Good morning, good evening, good night, good whatever, wherever you are, to everybody. This is kind of an unusual situation for me, being, in my home office and talking to so many people without having a real audience. This is kind of new stuff, so we'll see what we can do. You might have seen it on the inclusivedesign24.org webpage. I'm actually doing a live demo, so there'll be no slides. There'll be lots of screen reader talking and me talking, hopefully. Yeah, thank you for the invitation to the PACE Halo group. It's an honor to be here, and I'm very happy to present to you today on Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And hopefully we can all learn something from this day, and we've had some great sessions so far, and we'll have great sessions afterwards as well. So let's see how we can get this thing started. My talk is about making you hear what a modern web application sounds like. I am blind myself. I've been using screen readers, which is technology that makes web pages and programs and all kinds of stuff accessible to blind people via speech output. So in essence, my smartphone, my computer, they talk to me, and they talk to a lot of other blind people around the world. So if you've never heard what a screen reader is or sounds like, you're in for a treat, really. And if you already know that, but are not really familiar with modern web applications, you'll be in for a treat as well. So this is why what we'll be covering. I'll first show you a bit of Twitter. Twitter is a social network that many blind people are using to communicate, to spread information, to gain information, to socialize, to check up whether there's somebody in the area they know, to have meetings at conferences or whatever. I've started using Twitter at a CSUN conference in Los Angeles back then in 2008, and I've been in love with it ever since. I think it's a great tool. And Twitter's website has recently gained a lot of good accessibility.
New tweets available. Press period.
Yeah, sorry about that. Has gained a lot of good accessibility over the last year. Twitter now has a dedicated accessibility team, and they are doing some great work in both the website, desktop and mobile, as well as the mobile apps for iOS and for Android. There's been a lot of good things coming out of Twitter lately. And I'm going to show you some of that just in a moment. I'll also be covering Facebook, another social network that has learned a lot about accessibility over the last 2 years. They also have a great accessibility team now that helps make all kinds of Facebook apps and websites more accessible to everybody, not just for people who are blind, but people who are vision impaired as well. And so they have been doing lots of stuff with good color contrast in their various widgets and stuff like that as well. And if we have time at the end, which I think we will, I will also be showing you something in Google Apps, because they have become more and more important over the years in the education sector, as well as the workplaces. And Google's apps like Docs and Drive and Slides have also learned a lot about accessibility over the last 2 years, becoming much better. And hopefully I can show you some of that as well. So let's first start with Twitter. Now, the standard Twitter interface is kind of busy. It's got a lot of things going on, but the main thing you want to do there is either compose a tweet or read your tweets. And I'll start with the first one first. I'll just switch to that tab now.
Twitter document. Out of edit collapse.
Okay, Lala, whatever. Okay, there we are. So you can hear my screen reader. Let me know if it's too volume is too low. I can pump it up a little more. Let's try that.
Out of edit tweet text.
Okay, can you hear that?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So
new tweets available. Press period to review them.
Okay, this is actually an announcement coming from a Way Aria live region. Now, a lot of you might have heard a lot about Way Aria recently because it just became a World Wide Web Consortium standard. And Way Aria, spelled Way AI, sorry, dash ARIA, and that stands for, take a deep breath now, Web Accessibility Initiative, Accessible Rich Internet Applications. Whoa, made it through without accident. And it basically is a set of attributes, roles, and state attributes and alive regions that are items that can be spoken on demand to make websites more accessible than they would be without this extra semantic information. It's primarily geared towards screen reader users because you can do a lot of fancy stuff on the web that has no real native HTML semantics. So you can have autocompletes that are looking really fancy and stuff. You can make them work with a keyboard, with a mouse, and whatever, but you need to tell a screen reader that it's actually dealing with an autocomplete and that it is available or something like that. So this is what Way Aria is for, and we'll hear about that in just a moment. I am using Firefox, the latest development version. Actually, it's called Nightly. That's why it says Nightly in the toolbar at the top, but and not Mozilla Firefox. But it is Firefox, and NVDA, the open source and free screen reader. I knew I would stumble across that one day. From NV Access in Australia, which is for Windows, and I'm using the Vocalizer voices that are available for NVDA for purchase because I think it's much more friendly than the standard eSpeak free synthesizer that comes with NVDA by default. So, without further ado, let's go in. So I'm on the Twitter web page, and I'm on a label that says tweet
New
text.
tweets available. Press period to
Yeah, I love you too. And I'll just down arrow once. So I'm in browse mode at the moment, which is the equivalent of a virtual cursor if you're familiar with JAWS terminology. And we'll hear a couple of things now. And I will go through bit by bit of what they are after we've listened to it.
Edit collapse clickable submenu has autocomplete multi-line compose new tweet. New tweets available.
Okay. Edit text, multi-line. I'll break it down in a bit of chunks so that we can digest this better. So this is a multi-line edit field. It's currently collapsed, which means it is available for typing, but the autocomplete that is attached to it, which we'll deal with in a moment, is not yet expanded. It's not open. It doesn't show anything. It has a submenu. This is kind of misleading. It basically says it has a pop-up that can come up, but is currently not there. So let's listen to that again.
Tweet text edit collapsed focused multi-line has autocomplete. Blank.
Okay, it's focused. That's good because that's what we want. I'll press Enter to go into focus mode, which is the equivalent of forms mode if you're familiar with JAWS. That's the signal. And I'll just start typing a tweet, which I will send live from this presentation in just a moment.
I space AM space TWEETING space LIVE space FOMTE space.
And now I want to include the name of the PayCielo group who are carrying out this event. So I'll start with an @ sign and start with a P and listen to what's happening.
P expanded. New tweets available. Press period to
Yes.
review them. 6 results displayed.
Okay, ignore the new tweets kind of bit, but it says expanded, okay, and it says 6 results displayed, which means there are 6 autocomplete results now that it's offering me, and let's see what they are. I'll just press down arrow now, which is a standard way of interacting with these autocomplete widgets.
List. Product paddle at paddle 1 of 6.
That's not who we want. Pratik is not the person we want at this time.
Paul J. Adam at Paul Jidam 2 of 6. Peter Vonner at Vaynerth. Patrick H. Lock at Patrick H. Lock 4 of 6. PayPal accessibility at PayPal inclusive 5 of 6. Summer Panage at Summer 6 of 6.
Okay, so we're noticing that many of these start with P in the nickname, but not everyone. So it's also completing the names and not just the Twitter handles, which is kind of cool because then you can actually type something you think you know from a person, and Twitter is smart enough to know which person you might be meaning to address. In this case, the 6 results we have aren't what we are looking for, so I'll continue typing. I'll just type an A now.
A. List item. Accessibility partner at Access Partner 6 of 6.
Okay,
6
it
results
changed.
displayed. PayPal X. Patrick H. Paul J. Product paddle at paddle 1 of 6.
Okay, C.
C. List item. Mike Payshilo at Payshilo 1 of 6. 6 results display. The Payshilo group at Payshilo group 2 of 6.
That's the one we want. Okay, so I typed PAC, and the autocomplete gave me the correct nickname here. I didn't even have to remember if it actually starts with a P. In this case, it does, but it would have found the PayCielo group if it had another nickname as well. And now what I do is I press Tab to autocomplete and insert that into my tweet.
Tweet text edit collapsed multi-line has autocomplete. I am tweeting live from the spelling error in Payshilo.
Okay. It actually did choose the wrong item for some reason. It used Mike Paycielo's nickname here instead. So let me just go back and correct that. I'll just press backspace.
O-L-L-E-I-C-A-P-M. Collapsed.
P-A-C.
List. Mike Payshilo, the Payshilo group at Payshilo group 2 of 6.
Okay, I'll just press enter this time. Let's see if that works.
Tweet text edit collapsed multi-line has autocomplete.
Yes.
A spelling error Payshilo group.
Okay, that worked. Okay, so this is actually now the very nice effect that it actually inserted that correct handle. So let me reread the whole tweet.
I am tweeting live from the at spelling error Payshilo group. E-V-N-T space.
Event at. Now I'm inserting a hashtag, starting with the hash sign.
Number. G. Expanded. A. 4 results displayed. 4 results displayed. List. Game 7 1 of 4. Game of Thrones 2. Gaming Live 3 of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. A. Gago 4 of 4. D. Tweet text edit expanded multi-line has autocomplete. At spelling error Payshilo group event at spelling error God. 1 result displayed.
GAAD is the Global Accessibility Awareness Day hashtag. So I actually decided to just type the whole thing because it's 4 letters and it gave me so many different results here. This can happen too. Like you can have instances where you're getting results that aren't really useful and you have to type almost the whole thing to get it right, but who cares?
Dot collapsed.
Okay, now it says collapse, which means the autocomplete pop-up disappeared. And now I'll insert another hashtag at the end, which is the hashtag for this event, which is ID24.
Space. Number. I. Expand. D. 2. 1 result displayed.
One result displayed. Let's see if it's the right one.
List. ID 24 1 of 1.
Yay.
Tweet text edit collapsed multi-line has autocomplete. At spelling error pay Sheila group event at spelling error God. ID 24.
Okay, that's the tweet. I did it very slowly, so you can follow along. Usually I tweet much faster, obviously. So I'll just press Tab now, which means go to the next focusable item if there's no autocomplete ping.
Toolbar. Tweet button.
And here we have a toolbar. Toolbars aren't normally part of HTML. So this is also way ARIA. Like there's a toolbar role, which is a container, and the toolbar actually contains more than one item. It contains the tweet button, it contains a button to insert an image if I wanted to do that. I don't want this time, but that's also possible. And now I'm going to send off that tweet, and those who are following me will see it in their timeline in just a moment.
Space. Unavailable.
Okay, it's now unavailable
Document.
because the tweet has been sent. And those who are following me will now see that tweet that I just composed live during this presentation. There's another cool thing about the Twitter website that I like, and that requires me to turn off NVDA's virtual mode altogether. So NVDA's or JAWS's browse mode should be turned off for this. And this is the navigation through tweets via the J and K shortcuts. And this has also been made fully accessible from the Twitter folks who are working on accessibility. And this is really cool because these shortcuts have been available to keyboard users for years, but until recently they weren't accessible. There was just a visual box around the active tweet, but no screen reader indication. And that has changed, so let me just tab back into the document
List.
here.
Out of edit clickable navigation.
Yeah, okay, and I'll turn off NVDA's browse mode with insert plus spacebar. Click, okay. And now I can use all the shortcuts, all the keystrokes. It told me that there are new tweets available several times, and that I should press period to review them. So if I press period now, I'll go to the topmost tweet in my timeline, and I'll do that now.
List. Marco Zaya at Marco in English 1 MIM tweeting live from the Pay Sheila group event at got.aid 24 1 of 46 level 1.
Okay, that's my tweet that I just sent. It said 1 minute ago, and the text and hashtag whatever. So this is and I could now reply to it and favorite or retweet or whatever. So I can now press J and K to move to other tweets.
J. Retweeted by Steve Faulkner, Julian Wajsberg at Wajsberg38M https://addons.mozilla.org/ns/firefox/addon/screenreader-simulator/ a Firefox DevTools add-on that uses Firefox accessibility features to log what a screen reader would read A11 at A2 of 46, level 1.
I didn't make them send those tweets just now so I could plug Firefox accessibility here. To be honest, I didn't, really. Honest. So this is from Julian Weisberg, who's one of my colleagues at working on Firefox OS, and he's found a couple of things about accessibility and tweeting those. Thanks, Julian. This is really cool. So I'll go on to the third tweet, which is another press of J.
J. To Nivit at Nivit 9M glorious spring weather today to hack on A11Y/accessibility forgot at Mozilla Paris 3 of 46 level 1.
Yeah, Mozilla Paris also has a really global accessibility awareness day event hosting right now. So they are working on making all kinds of websites more accessible, people coming in, asking questions, really nice. So you can see my timeline is full of GAAD tweets at the moment, so there's no way to avoid them. So, but this is how it works, and I could reply to that. I can reply to Tristan's tweet now and press R.
R. Expanded. Twitter nightly. Unknown. Twitter nightly. Twitter document. List. List. List item. List. Tweet text edit collapsed multi-line has autocomplete. At spelling error needed a spelling error Mozilla Paris.
Okay, it inserted both the names that were either the author or mentioned in the tweet. And I'll just send a greeting.
Space. Number. G-A-A-D-P-E-H-O-N bang space A-P-E-N space E-V-R-Y-O-N-E bang.
So I just greetings from my presentation and have fun everyone. Press tab.
Toolbar. Tweet button. Space. Unavailable. Twitter document.
Okay, and this is how a faster tweet worked.
New
Actually.
tweets available. Press period to review them.
Okay, there are new tweets now. So it noticed that I sent off a tweet and probably included that. So here you are. This is some of the stuff that you can do on Twitter as a blind person right now. I'm just using NVDA and the latest version of Firefox. It should work with all the release versions of Firefox that are out there at the moment. And I'm using NVDA 2014.2 Release Candidate 1, which was just released for this particular occasion. And it's very stable and it's very good, so check it out. Even if you're using a different screen reader at the moment, you might want to give NVDA a whirl and see what it has to offer. It's really, really cool. Okay, that's Twitter. So we're almost half an hour in. It took much longer than I expected. So let's take a quick look at Facebook. Unless there are any questions at this point, I could take some. Hans, do you have any questions for me?
I have a few questions, but I'll save them for the end.
Okay, fine with me. Okay, let's continue with Facebook. I'll just press Control-Tab to go to the next open tab that I have here.
To Facebook document. Visited link Alt+Shift+1 home.
To Facebook document. This is the title says I have two somethings that need my attention. So I'm already logged in. I saved that because that's pretty straightforward. So I'll just explore what Facebook has to offer. Facebook is also a very rich, very busy website. It has lots of stuff going on in sidebars and at the footer, and the center is the news feed, which can be either the newest or the top stories or whatever. So it's very busy. It has got a lot of good accessibility added recently, so check it out. And for the desktop, I definitely recommend to use the desktop version nowadays because it has lots of good stuff that you can access with a screen reader. And I'm going to just down arrow. I'm back in browse mode now. The low beep that we just heard indicated that to me. So let's explore what we have here.
Blank. Menu button submenu requests.
Menu button submenu requests. Okay, I have no requests obviously. Menu button means this button will open kind of a menu or a pop-up. Submenu says, okay, this is probably a pop-up, which means it's not a normal button that just sends off a form, but it's something that's going to dynamically insert some stuff into the document or into my experience when I press it. I'll just down arrow.
Menu button submenu messages.
Okay, messages is the next item. I don't have any new messages apparently, but I'll probably have notifications. So let's see.
Menu button submenu 2 notifications.
Yeah, 2 notifications. So I'll just press enter.
Mark as read button.
Okay, it opened that and focused on the mark as read button, which is not what I want to do. I want to check them out, so I'll just down arrow.
Clickable list with 13 items. Link Moritz Cheeseman, Kirsten Probish, and 7 other people like your status. Super excited about giving.
Okay, I posted a status this morning that I'm super excited about giving this presentation, so I'm getting a notification that so many people liked it.
Link a talk in 3. Link 21 seconds.
Okay, this is very...
Button mark as read. Link Eric Eggert tagged you in a post. To add this to your timeline, go to timeline review.
Okay, Eric, hi there. tag me in a post. So if I want to add that to my timeline, I can just press enter on this item, and then it'll go to my timeline reviews kind of thing. I think I'll do that later.
Link 22 minutes. Button Marcus Reed. Link Eric Egger commented on your status. Good luck.
Okay, and that's actually an older notification. It said I had 2 new ones, so this is already the 3rd that I have already read before. So this is what these look like. Now, the actual widget to post the status is also quite busy. Why don't we look at that? And this takes me to a point that I find cannot be emphasized enough to all the blind listeners out there. Know your screen reader. Know not only that you can tab through a page, but also familiarize yourselves with things like quick navigation keys that you have available, with all the good stuff that you can do. You have lists of links, other stuff in your screen reader that allows you to move through web pages, rich content, much quicker than just using the tab key or just using arrow keys to go sequentially. For example, I want to go to the edit field that allows me to post a status update. And because I know Facebook, I know that it's above the heading level 2 that starts the main news feed. So I can very quickly go there by just hitting 2, which is the quick navigation key that takes me to the next level heading at level 2, and then I can just up arrow once, and I'm there. Okay, I'll press 2.
Out of list main landmark newsfeed heading level 2.
Okay, and I'll just press up arrow.
Clickable edit collapse submenu has autocomplete multi-line. What's on your mind?
Okay, again, this edit multi-line submenu. What's on your mind? And I can just press enter. Okay, I could post stuff here now, but that works very similar to what Twitter does, actually. It puts focus in the autocomplete list automatically when it opens, so it's a little different, but it's the same principle. You can choose where arrow keys and tab or enter to autocomplete. I'll just go through some of the other widgets that became visible the moment I set focus on this edit field. This is what Facebook does. It basically only shows you the edit field when you're reading the page, but as soon as you focus it, it adds a bunch of other controls that allow you to insert a link, a location, choose who can see the post that you're just composing, if it's public or only your friends can see it, and so forth. So this is dynamically inserted the moment you set focus to this text field, and you're not noticing it as long as you stay in this field. But if I tab now,
collapsed list 1 notifications menu button submenu out of edit banner landmark navigation landmark list with 6 items marked.
Oops, where did you take me
Settings
there?
link
Oh, okay. It took me out of that. I didn't expect
out
that.
of list main landmark clickable list with 2 items button post.
Okay, so for some reason the tab order was a bit wacky here. So it actually expanded the widgets, but it took me to a completely wrong place there.
Out of list what's on your mind.
In the notifications back up at the top. So let me just go through. I'll just focus back on the edit field, but I'm using the virtual cursor now.
What's on your mind? Collapsed.
Okay, it says
tag people in your post button focus tag people in your post. Out of edit clickable button add a location to post. Clickable button browse. No files selected. New tweets available. Button say what you are doing. List with 2 items button collapsed submenu public.
That's a collapsed submenu public that allows me to specify who can see the post that I'm composing. Like I said, public or my friends.
Button post.
Okay, and that's the post button. So a whole widget that actually was inserted before the heading level 2, where there was previously only the one edit field. And this happens a lot with these rich internet applications, that they react to keyboard input in a dynamic way, or to focusing something, and give you more options that they hide from the user before the focus actually goes into that area of action. This is the same that happens to sighted people. So if a sighted person goes to the Facebook site and clicks on that particular edit field, it also expands, like it sort of like zooms out and takes up a lot more space than just the tiny edit field that is there in the beginning. So if they click it, it basically pops open, and like I think it even has some nice visual effects when it does that. But because, except for this glitch in the tab order right now, because this is all made accessible, this also works with screen readers, and we don't have to fear that anymore than we had to do a couple of years ago when this was totally not accessible yet, and lots of things weren't working the way they could have. But again, in the last 2 years, Facebook has made lots of progress here. So this is Facebook, and let's quickly, because we are running out of time, take a look at something Google-ish here. Let me press Control-Tab here again.
Out of list banner landmark navigation landmark.
Yeah, come on.
My Drive Google Drive document. The files and folders list. Use the up and down arrows to navigate through the list. Use the X key to select items list. Untitled spreadsheet. Spreadsheet. Owned by me. 7 of 7.
Okay, here we are in Google Drive, and it told me that I'm in the files and folders list, and that I should press X to select and use up and down arrows to move through files and stuff like that. So let's do that. Let's go through the files that I have here. There's nothing exciting here, so no secrets or something.
Untitled document. Document. Owned by me. 6 of 7. Untitled document. Document. Owned by me. 5 of 7.
You can tell that I've been playing with Google Docs lately. Lots of untitled stuff where I just tested some things and then threw it away, but because it autosaves, it actually made these things appear in my Google Drive.
Untitled document. Document.
Another one.
Me. Tips on accessibility in apps.pptx. PowerPoint.pptx. Owned by me. 3 of 7. Test presentation. Presentation. Owned by me. 2 of 7.
Okay, I've tried slides as well.
Marcos Tisdari.
Okay.
Untitled document. Document.
Why don't we open one of these untitled documents? So I'll just press Enter. And Google Docs and Google Drive are best used with virtual mode turned off. Google has good, extensive documentation on that. So if you're trying it out, use it without virtual mode as for most, if possible, and look at the help documentation first. They've got some great documentation on the shortcuts that are available, but which are only really working if you're not in virtual mode, because virtual mode grabs keystrokes and doesn't give them to the web application easily. So turn it off, and now I can just press Enter to open one of those test documents in Google Docs.
About, blank busy, about, blank, you are online. Untitled document Google Docs busy. Document content edit busy, blank. Screen reader support enabled. Screen reader support enabled. On page 1 this is a test.
On page 1 this is a test. Okay, let me just turn off virtual mode again.
Untitled document Google Docs busy. Document content edit busy, blank. Blank, capital T.
Okay, I'm now going left and right. And right now, because this is such a rich interface, and because there were some problems before, Google is controlling all the stuff that they are speaking and giving basically every character, every line, every information to the screen reader via a live region. This will change in the future, and right now Google Docs doesn't work with Braille yet, but this is going to change soonish as far as I've been told.
Blank, H, blank, I, blank, S.
Okay, this blank comes from the fact that I'm in a multi-line edit field that doesn't actually contain anything, which is only there for keyboard input capture. Some technical detail, but this explains why currently this is saying blank before each character. But again, this will change in a while. Now, Google Docs also has a great menu system, and I can go there by pressing Alt-Shift-F as in File.
Menu submenu. Menu bar.
Okay, so I'm on the menu bar, and this sounds very much like a desktop application, doesn't it? And this is really because of all the stuff that WayAria allows us to do. Like, these are all elements in HTML, if you're familiar with it, that are divs and spans and sections and whatever. But because of the semantics that we have through WayAria, Google could specify that this particular set of widgets is a menu bar with menu items and submenus and so forth. So I can just navigate left and right through this menu system like usual.
Edit submenu 2 of 9. Menu view submenu 3 of 9. Insert submenu 4 of 9.
Okay, I can pull it down by pressing down arrow.
Image I 1 of 5. Link L shortcut CTRL plus K 2 of 5. Equation E 3 of 5. Drawing D 4 of 5. Table T submenu 5 of 5.
Okay, and the table says it has a submenu, so I can press right arrow to go into that.
1 by 1 1 of 1.
1 by 1.
1 by 2. 1 by 3. 1 by 4.
I can left arrow out of it again.
Menu bar. Comment M shortcut CTRL plus L plus M 1 of 2. Footnote N special characters C 1 of 2. Horizontal line R 2 of 2. Page number A submenu 1 of 2. Page count O 2 of 2. Page break P shortcut CTRL plus enter 1 of 5. Header H 2 of 5. Footer F 3 of 5.
Yes, you notice that it does change the count because the menu is separated into sections, some having to do with page wide things that you can insert, like a footer, a header, or a page break, some having to do with stuff like images, links, and some having to do with comments and footnotes and stuff like that. So these are all different sections, and you can easily hear that you've transitioned into a different section when the announcement changes, like 1 of 5 or 1 of 2 and stuff like that. So visually, there are just blocks separated by horizontal lines that allow for easier overview, because this is a long menu, as you can tell. This is still the insert menu. So you can see Google Docs is a very rich word processing app running in your browser, comparable to what you know maybe from Microsoft Word. And the good thing is even the collaborative features work. So I can collaborate with others on a document and see the edits they've made and make edits on my own, and the moment I do them, they are saved in the revision history and others can look at it. So over the past year or so, Google has made great strides to make this more accessible, and so this is one of the things that I wanted to show, that with the power of WayAria and the right accessibility, these rich internet applications like Google Docs, like Twitter, like Facebook, can be made accessible. And if you're a web author looking for examples, go no further than these and just look at what they've been doing. There are a lot of good add-ons for Firefox, for Chrome, or whatever your favorite browser is, to inspect what they have been doing and to learn from the expected interaction and what it sounds like and what the look and feel is, and so forth. So I can just press escape now. No.
Document content edit busy blank.
Okay, I'm back in the document. I can just close the tab, and if I had made any edits, they would be auto-saved. I could rename the file so it has a more meaningful name, but I don't want to do that right now. So this is all that I wanted to show you. This is what
new tweets available.
Yeah, this is what I had on my list that I wanted to present to you. So I'm now open for any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Marco. If there's any questions, now's the time to type them into the Q&A window, or in the chat if you want.
Yeah, and Hans, if you could read them to me while they come in, because that's probably easier than
I
me
know.
having to. Okay.
I will. In the meantime, I have a few questions as well. The first ones are about Twitter. I was just wondering, purely as an end user, do you have a preference for doing services like Twitter on a web-based interface or on like a mobile app interface?
Well, that depends on where I am. If I'm on the go, I'll definitely use the mobile app. Usually, I use Twitterrific on the iPhone, but I could also use Twitter. It's the native Twitter app, which became much more accessible recently. Or I could use something like Tweetings, which is also a very accessible Twitter client. But if I'm on my desktop, I usually either use the web or use a Windows client called Chicken Nugget. It really depends on what mood I am in, or if I need to do something on the web and want to quickly just check something. I usually have either a separate browser window open with Twitter itself or with or my native Twitter client. But certainly the recent advancements in the accessibility of the Twitter website have made it much more likely that I'll be using it.
Yeah, I guess it's just whichever one is most accessible for the service in question.
Right.
Would you say, like very generally speaking, like are mobile apps doing a better job, or web-based services or website UIs doing a better job in general?
It really depends. Like if you've got more space and more stuff to put on a desktop website. You also notice that if you visit a website on a tablet rather than an iPhone, for example, if I go on certain websites with my iPad, they look different than what I get on my iPhone. In general, you have to take into account that on the iPhone you have to be much more focused because you have a much smaller screen, and if you're more focused, it means there's less information at any given time that you have to deal with, which also makes it more usable in terms of you more quickly get to the things that are really important. And so it really depends. So if a mobile web application or a mobile website is really done well, you can actually get lots of good value out of that as well. But if you just visit any website that doesn't have a mobile version and it throws at you the desktop equivalent, and you have to deal with it on a very small iPhone screen, it really becomes cumbersome. But not just for blind users, but for everybody.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I guess it depends on just how complicated the interface is and how much benefit you'll have by being constrained to a simplified version of it, like for example in a mobile app. The other question that I had was you mentioned, I guess, in all three applications, or maybe you didn't do it in Facebook actually, switching out of virtual mode in your screen reader. For example, in Twitter to use those special shortcuts, and obviously in Google Docs or Drive, I think it's called now. How do you feel about you losing your virtual mode privileges, so to speak, by doing that? Sometimes when we recommend people to do that, they'll complain that they can no longer use heading navigation and things like that, because obviously those things are only available in virtual mode. I'm wondering, would there be a benefit in having some kind of hybrid mode where you can do both? Like, you can use custom shortcuts, but also still use heading navigation, for example, in the Google Docs UI or in the Twitter UI. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. We do have this kind of hybrid mode on platforms like macOS, for example, where VoiceOver, which doesn't have a real virtual mode, has these heading and stuff, other shortcuts available to move through the web page by certain elements like headings, tables, and whatnot. And they don't have a virtual mode, so they don't reformat. They treat everything like your normal application, which sometimes makes it more efficient because you don't have to think about the different modes. But also it can make things a little more complicated at times
Shortcuts
because
become more complicated, I guess. Like you're going to need more tricky shortcuts and things like that.
Exactly. So they have their pros and cons. I'd say if done well, like on the Twitter thing, I mean, there's no quicker way to get to the first tweet than just turning off virtual mode and pressing period. The keyboard focus goes there, and you're on the first tweet. And the tweets block is the last thing on the page. So if you want to go there in virtual mode, you have to get past several headings, the whole footer with the Twitter copyright stuff, and so forth. So getting out of virtual mode and just pressing period to load the newest tweets, or J and K to go to the next or previous tweet, is just way quicker, and you get the gist of the tweet read to you. And if you don't want to reply or retweet or favorite, you don't have to go past those elements which are part of every tweet. Like you have the reply, favorite, retweet thing for every tweet, which your virtual cursor must pass over if you read it with a virtual cursor. Here you just press K or J, the next, and you go to the next tweet instantly. And if you want to reply, you either use a shortcut, like I did with the R key to reply, or you just press tab and you get to the links, to the nickname, and you can open the profile, or you can go to the reply, favorite, or retweet items if you didn't remember what the shortcuts were. So the Twitter developers did a very good job at actually making sure that keyboard focus is in a meaningful state at all times when virtual mode is off. And this is really
very
cool.
important.
Yeah.
I guess another way of asking kind of the same question, but the opposite way is should there be some kind of addition to the HTML standard of allowing custom shortcuts to be available in virtual mode? So should there be some kind of official way, and I'm not just talking about registering key events in JavaScript, but some kind of official way to recognize custom features and custom shortcuts and let them be available in virtual mode so that the user wouldn't have to switch?
Ultimately, it would be ideal if we could get away with virtual mode especially on the Windows platform altogether, and have meaningful ways of navigating the content with whichever means are the most useful. The problem is there are technical restrictions. So if on Windows, which primarily have to do with performance, but also with the way different stuff has been developing historically.
Untitled document.
Yeah, if there was a way to communicate back and forth between the web application, the browser, and the screen reader to negotiate sort of like which mode should be used best without having to resort to like finite things like role application, that would be awesome. Obviously, you'd have to get all the major screen readers on board to implement that, and I can see that happening with NVDA and Orca on Linux, and maybe VoiceOver on OS X too. Pretty sure about that. But I don't know about the commercial ones on Windows, whether they would be willing to participate in this kind of standards work. My hope is that they would come around and also be open to discussions about certain things that can be improved when dealing with web applications, the browser, and the screen reader in tandem. So my hope is yes, that we can maybe set a precedent and they will just follow the lead because they see it works, or they participate more actively. I'm hoping, but I'm not keeping the hopes up too high. I've known the industry for too long.
Yeah, they definitely need to be on board for anything to work, I guess. Would you say that the introduction of autoforms mode in modern screen readers is kind of a start of what you were describing, this hybrid model? And
Yes.
also, do you like autoforms mode and do you actually use it?
I like forms mode the way that NVDA implemented it, which means it doesn't give autoforms mode if you use the virtual cursor, but it gives autoforms mode if you use the tab key.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes much more sense than the way that JAWS does it, in my opinion, where it always gives you the autoforms mode by default whenever your virtual cursor enters an edit field or a combo box and stuff like that, and you actually have to think about, oh, where does my caret go now? Or does it go back to virtual mode if I press down arrow or whatever? I feel whenever I use JAWS, I use NVDA as my primary screen reader, but obviously I use JAWS a lot for testing, but it always irritates me. Even, they introduced that in JAWS 10 and it's now at JAWS 15, but it still irritates me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people complain about it, even though I guess we as developers consider it a big improvement, because before that there was really the need for users to manually switch, and a lot of users don't understand it. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that the way JAWS handles it is a bit too much and too disruptive at times. Another question that I had was, how did you find out about those Twitter shortcuts, the J and K stuff? And
there is help available.
Oh, sorry. I think you were.
There's help available. For a while, on Twitter. So for a while, it actually was presented to me at the top of every page that I visited on Twitter, but you can always get there by pressing the question mark key.
I guess my follow-up question to that is, how would you recommend developers to convey custom shortcuts to users? Would the way that Twitter did it be the best way, or should there be some kind of more standardized way to notify users what shortcuts are available, as particularly novice users in this case?
I'm not sure of the best way, to be honest. I think the way Twitter did it was quite okay. They allowed you to either read it or dismiss it. They had a dismiss button at the top of the piece where the shortcuts were. So if I noticed that it was there, I didn't have to go through the whole shortcut table, but had a dismiss button at the top. That was good because it could, for after a while I was familiar with them. But it could be either that, or it could be a notification somewhere saying, "Hey, I've got shortcuts available. Press this link to view them," or whatever. This is a tricky question, and I'm sure this. I think this whole field of really good web applications is just starting, so we'll probably find out the best model there. Like Google and Microsoft, both in their docs, they give you a hint about press this and that shortcut key to view all the available keyboard shortcuts, either in the live region or in an alert message or something like that. So there are different ways already being used, and they all worked for me so far. So I guess we'll find the best solution as we develop develop this further. Even though when ARIA,
would you say it would be a good best practice for all applications and sites to use that question mark key to kind of a go-to shortcut list feature? Like if that was just something that most people would implement and people would just get used to. Well, if I'm stuck, I have to press the question mark key.
Yeah, the problem with the question mark key is, what do you do if you're inside a document? Usually,
my idea is that it could either be question mark or like Control Shift question mark or Control question mark.
Yeah, or something similar. Yeah, if it was a standard like on Windows, where you press F1 in almost every application to get to help, that might be something. I think
one more question, and then we're out of time. This question is from Lainey Watson. She asks, is NVDA a good option for developers looking to experience or test web applications themselves?
Definitely. It's free. It's got a good community. and it doesn't disrupt your system. Like, it doesn't install any kind of video hooking technology and stuff like that. You can even just run it as a portable version. You don't even need to install it. You can just run it as a portable version from the installer, or put a portable version on your USB key and insert it into any computer and just run it. So NVDA is a very good solution. It works very well with Firefox, works very well with IE, and also with Chrome, as far as the Chrome support under Windows goes. They are still learning there, but it has very good support for all these browsers, and it's very non-intrusive in your system.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. NVIDIA is great. All right, well, we're out of time. We need a few minutes to set up for the next session. So thank you very much, Marco, for talking about your screen reader experiences today. And I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.